Hey folks, David opposing the Matrix. How the heck are you? I'm doing pretty good, I think. I was supposed to have a show yesterday, but I was too tired. I'm sorry. So I postponed it till today. Well, here I am. And since I don't do live shows anymore, it shouldn't really matter, right? And you know what? I should say that when the time comes and my iron levels go back up and I'm not falling asleep all the time, I will start live shows again. I promise. Okay? All right. Man, I was, kind of wondering what to talk about today and stuff, and all of a sudden, I combined a whole bunch of stuff and put it together, and I did it at light speed yesterday too. So if there is a spelling error or something, I ask you to give me grace and just deal with it. Okay. But today we're going to talk about the matrix being coded, okay, and we're going to ask the question. What is the beast system? Begins with infrastructure before it reveals a ruler. For so long a time, we've been under the impression that, okay, there's going to be a crisis, a war, okay, and that the Antichrist is going to come into view and step up and say, I can stop this, and I will stop it right now. And he stops it almost instantaneously. And then after that, he starts building his kingdom, okay. Now, that would be well and fine, and that's what we've expected all these years. That's been the summation, the surmising that anyway. And but it could be set up ahead of time so that he just kind of slides in there and ends the war if that's what starts everything, and then have everything set in place for him. And I'm thinking that's what's happening because there's a lot of weird stuff going on. Even Trump seems to be setting some stuff up for the New World Order. Not the New World Order that we have now with the Deep State, and not the Brics New World Order, and not the Trump New World Order, but there will be another New World Order that I think will absorb all those things. And for the longest time, we've had what we'll call the American New World Order, okay, because it has been the Americans putting it together. And I'm not gonna say we because I had nothing to do with it, and I don't want anything to do with it. Okay, but the American government, especially the deep state, has put together this thing since what probably by the turn of the last century. That's when they started the income tax, and it was in 1913, I think, the income tax started, and then Roosevelt with the New Deal and turning us into a socialist state. Nobody would ever admit it, but we were. And I guess we still are to some degree. And it gradually progressed until in the 80s and the 90s when the government really took over. But the defining event that really started it was 9/11, 2001, when the Twin Towers were destroyed. I wasn't going to say when the Muslims, hijacked planes because I don't think it was an inside job. And I had to do a report or a show on that. I think maybe that's what we'll do next week. Um, no, it was the Bush. It was Bush and Cheney that planned it all and put it all together. And there's a lot of evidence to reveal that. We'll talk about that real soon. Okay. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, and I miss it don't hit my house. Okay. So anyway, so we've had the American New World Order for several years, and um, it was a New World Order of corruption. What can I say? It was a gradual takeover of the personal rights and liberties of Americans and everybody around the world actually, but um, it really hit hard here because it had its birth here, its origins here, and what better place to start than here? Because if you can subdue the American people, you can subdue anybody around the world. Okay. I hear the other day there's like 250 to million people that have guns. Okay, it's a lot of people. Now, I don't know if they were counting children or not, but they weren't. That's a lot of adults. That's more than well, it'd be close to three-quarters of the adults in the United States. Okay, because when you look at the total population, you have women and children too. And I think specifically we're talking about men, but there are a lot of women that like guns and like shooting and know that someday they might need it. Okay. So anyway, So Trump has put what am I trying to say? He's really stirred things up when it comes to the former world order, New World Order. That's still here, but is vanishing quickly. Um, he has been the fly in their ointment, and he right away when he came in, he got rid of all the medical stuff, the all the organizations that forced people to take that, and with I can't think right now. Uh, but the World Health Organization. There we go. That's the one, and there's a couple of others too, the FDA and things like that. So, anyways, put the kibosh on a lot of those, or severely restrict them from doing things, which is really good. But he's bucked the system all the way, and the system doesn't like it. But the system is starting to realize that when Trump wants something, he gets it. Okay, and it might take a little while now because they've tested him so far now that they know where they can push and where they can't push, and recently with the tariff things and the tariff situation and the tariff question, that's it. Thrown before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, you can't really do that. The president doesn't have authority. So they're finding out. Everybody's testing the water, so to speak, and getting acclimated to the water, and figuring out how they can use the water against somebody else. Okay. So anyway, it's been interesting to watch. It really has. Especially what he's been doing here, really upsetting the waters. I really do think that before his term ends here, if he doesn't somehow get another term, he's probably going to do away with the IRS, and he's going to do away with the Federal Reserve. I think that's all but gone anyway. But anyway, he's going to have to, if rumors are true, trillions, if not quadrillions of dollars or worth of gold have been brought to this country from around the world, from underneath the Vatican, all over the place, and have been stored. A lot of people think Fort Knox, but I don't think that's true. I think it's been stored either at Cheyenne Mountain, that's a possibility, or maybe Area 51. I don't know, someplace very, very secure that not just anybody's going to be able to get in there and do anything. So, because I think the last time I heard, Fort Knox was almost about empty. So, and if that's true, as long as the money is somewhere or the gold is somewhere, that's all that matters. So, setting up the beast system before the beast gets here is very viable, very maybe an intelligent thing to do too. It's I don't want to give credit to that particular genre, but it's always good to be prepared, no matter what you do. You know, if you're going to pour concrete in your backyard, you just don't hire the truck. You go out back there and you put a form in, and you dig out within the form to get everything to a uniform height. Then you get everything you need, the tools. Then you call the truck, and the truck comes and dumps a whole bunch of concrete in the center. If you're blessed, if not, you're going to be bringing back wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow of concrete to make a patio. But anyway, so you prepare for everything that you do, and if you don't, you can still get it done. But it's really foolish not to prepare for anything that you're going to do. It's the wise thing to do. Okay, it's the fastest thing to do, and it just makes you look a lot better when people watch and hey, yeah, he knew what he was doing. He got it all prepared, and yeah, he's a pretty good guy. Okay, or a good woman, because we could be talking about a lot of other things. Folks, pardon the dogs. Okay, we've got people running in and out of here all day, and there's going to be barking like crazy. But I think we can get over that. And if you're thinking about getting a Chiweenie, think twice. They don't shut up. They're beautiful dogs. They're very loving and everything. But boy, when they start barking, there's no stopping them. Okay, maybe that's a good way to be. I don't know. It's with a person's personality, I guess it's a great way to be. No, you just saw Rocco walk in. He's our mascot. He'll come in, lay on the bed until he hears a noise out there, and then he'll run out. But good watchdog, excellent watchdog. And his bark, if I was on the other side of the wall, it would scare me. Okay, so again, let's start here. Let's get rolling. We've been talking about other things, kind of prepping up to what we're going to talk about today. So, what if the beast system begins with an infrastructure before it reveals the ruler? Man, that's what a profound question. It's something that people really haven't figured out. Well, we've watched over the years. We've watched this. I remember back in the 80s, supposedly they sent out New World Order cash, and you were able to look at it, and coins. And then we heard about the Amero coin that was going to be the official currency of North America, and it never depended on anything. Although it could be in the wings, just waiting. But now things seem to be going towards digital, and we won't have to wait. I mean, one day it could be currency, and then bam, they flip a switch, and the next day it's going to be digital. I really don't want to see that. I like having freedom with the little money we have. And what an insult it is when you have a little bit of cash, but somebody still controls it for you. Anyway, so Revelation 13 kind of introduces the Antichrist and what the system is going to be like. Okay, and so it requires certain prerequisites are required. Okay, for the whole Revelation tribulation thing to take effect. So Revelation 13 requires centralized authority. Okay, it's not going to be, well, there'll be like 10 kings and stuff like that, but when it comes to rule, it's going to be centralized, and it's going to be one person at the top, or so the prophet, the false prophet, and the beast. Okay, so you have two people, but they're going to have different roles. But anyway, so you got to have that centralized authority, kind of like the communists had with the Politburo in Moscow. And it was when you started getting into the other areas of the police state in Russia that things started to break down. Certain people thought that they had more power than others, and the whole 9 yards, what a mess that was. Okay, so there's going to have to be economic gatekeeping. Okay, you're going to have to clamp down on. I know that these people that are proposing, what is it? Oh, the global forgiveness system and the national forgiveness system. I can't think of the names right now, but where they're supposedly gonna do away with all debt and everything, and that remains to be seen. I'm really, every day I wake up, that gets farther and farther away from my thinking and my endorsement, so to speak. But economic gatekeeping is going to have to be very important, because if you don't do it right, you're going to have just what you have right now. You're going to have corruption. Now, according to what the white hats or whatever, what they were planning, it was going to be so precise that there would be no cheating, that they would be able to tell when somebody's ripping other people off and everything. So that remains to be seen. It remains to be seen if that's even going to happen. Okay, but it's in people's minds, and people are trying to figure out how to do it. So you would have to require universal compliance. Okay, not just one person out of 10, not just 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. You're going to require. And we've read about that scripture where it talks about the beast money system. You can't buy or sell this. You have the mark and stuff like that. So we'll go into that a little further down the line here. And you're going to have identifiable allegiance. That's what the mark is for. Right hand or forehead. And we're going to get into that too, because is it necessarily a visible mark? We don't know. Okay, for most of history, these things, those 4 things I listed, have been impossible. Okay, there's just no way to keep a track of, even if there was 2 billion people, there's no way to keep a track of everybody. It'd be easier than it is today with 8 billion people, or 8 plus. But still, it's been difficult. But with cameras everywhere and devices, they say that they can hear you from your TV, they can hear you from your cell phone, which is definite because if I thought about left-handed monkey wrenches, 5 minutes later I'm getting ads on my phone for left-handed monkey wrenches. Okay, uh, just kidding, but that was an example. Um, so they have a way of watching everybody. Okay, if they wanted to zero in on you, they can watch you from satellites. They can track your phone. They can. It's going to be very hard in this new day and age, this new economic system, this new beast system to hide. It really is going to be difficult. Yeah, you can go hide in the mountains and stuff like that. Hey, did you ever stop to think? Recently there's been a lot of programs on like Bigfoot, Dog Man, Wendigos, and stuff like that. Think about where the environment they're talking about is. It's out in the open and out in the mountains where people could feel relatively safe if they went out there. Except these things supposedly live out there. These things might be out there. They're demonic, but I think that the whole reason these shows are on is to quash anybody's aspirations when things get rough going out in the country. Yeah, you can go out in the country, but you can get attacked and killed by Bigfoot or the Wendigo or Dogman or whatever, So they're trying to quench that, and I would never fall for that because I got a feeling especially being a believer, we have protection that the world doesn't have. Uh, so anyway, for most of history, this has been impossible, but today it's feasible. It's very feasible. So we are analyzing capability, not really declaring fulfillment, okay? Because it's not going to be fulfilled until it happens, right? That's the funny thing about prophecy. You get people that call themselves prophets. Elijah's list. If you want to be confused, go to Elijah's list because you'll have 15,000 people having prophecies about one subject, and they'll all be different. Okay, like Yahweh's got 15,000 ways to do one thing. No, he's got his way, and his way is the only way. But that's how you can tell these most of these people are false prophets anyway on there. But so the fulfillment of these things we'll know for sure after they all happen, and we kind of guess while things are prepping up, and we'll definitely know as things are happening. But trying to figure out everything that's going to happen it'll drive you a meshuggah. You don't want to do that. You want to just kind of go with the flow, but no. Hey, that's good. Go with the flow, but no. That know that what the possibilities are, and that's why this show exists to let you know what's going on in this matrix that we live in, and to help people understand that we're especially if you're a believer in Yeshua, we're just we're citizens in another kingdom and we're ambassadors in this one. Even Paul even says that we're ambassadors here. Not that Paul's everything Paul says. Well, I think it was all inspired, but if it comes from Yeshua, I know. But when it comes from somebody like Paul, it's I would say 99.9% accurate, and the rest is left up to interpretation. Okay, so let's look at modern infrastructure, the building blocks, okay, of this beast system that they're going to get ready to implement. Pardon me, I have to get something to drink. You talk a lot on a show like this. Stop. Your throat gets a little dry, so that's why I have the Pepsi Zero. Man, that stuff's good. I know I'm gonna get mail. Oh, you shouldn't drink that. It's got all this stuff in it. Well, everything's got stuff in it anymore. Okay, so let's look at digital ID. Okay, digital identity, digital ID. So, what's the definition of that? State recognized digital credential linking. Okay. State recognized digital credential linking. They've proven that they can insert a chip in people. Okay, and that chip will let them zero in on you. It'll tell people when you're sick, when you're well. The one thing I don't think it can do, it can't read your mind, but thanks to Elon Musk, that guy he's a mystery wrapped around a riddle because he's warning us of this new dangerous age coming, yet he's part of it. He's making this thing, I can't remember the name of it right now, but they can actually thread it through one of your veins into your head and plant it there. Okay, and this thing is supposed to be able to communicate with you. How I don't know, but it can tell people how everything they need to know, how you feel, what kind of mood you're in, what the potential that you might go off or something like that, and uh, that's scary. So Musk is a very strange person. He really is. He's yes, he's a genius, and we've got a lot of neat things from Elon Musk. But some of the things he's doing, making making AI. You know, he'll talk about how bad AI is, but he's making a grok. I think they call it, right. Excuse me. And so I don't know. Either you're for technology, I mean this kind of technology, invasive technology, or you're against it. You know, and you can't be both ways. But when a person talks against something, but then is actually making something that they're talking against, you got to wonder. Okay, so you got to have state-recognized digital credential linking. Well, what? Your legal identity. Okay, that's a must. You know, remember Sherby? Show your papers. You must show your papers. Well, your papers are going to be digital, and your papers are going to be in every computer from here to kingdom come. Uh, so your biometric data, how you're feeling. Uh, some people are really excellent at lying. I'm not one of them. Okay, if I were to try to lie, I give it away every time. So I don't do it anymore. I did it for a number of years when I was younger. Then I realized I have something about me. There's a tell, and people learn to read that. So I just don't do it, and you don't have to worry. But and plus, it's not an ethical thing to do, and immoral. It's immoral too to lie. So why do it? Um, so your legal identity, they have to have that because they have to know who you are. Okay. Your biometric data. Okay. Like I was getting with the lying. There are things, chemical processes that happen in your body, especially in your brain, when certain activities happen, and one of them is well, when you're going to lie, they can tell that. When you're going to, if you're going to escalate from a semi-good mood into a terrible mood, they'll be able to tell that in the whole 9 yards. So I think it's even possible that they'll be able to inject things into you, not with the needle, but with thoughts, with things that they'll have that can actually communicate with your brain and make you do things, and I think that's part of the whole B system too. We'll see. Financial accounts, they've already got that. It's crazy. It really is. You can. Well, here in the States, you really. They say you're flying under the radar if you spend less than $10,000 at a time. Now, what Ken Hovind was doing way back when, before he went to jail for this, he should not have gone to jail for this, but they put him in jail for it. When he was moving things around financially, for his ministry, he knew about the $10,000 limit, so he was doing 9,000 or 9,500. I can't remember. And but they tracked him, and they knew he was doing it. Somebody was out to get Ken Hovind, and they got him. And he went to prison. And the funny thing is that after his first month or so in prison, he wrote and he says, "Man, I'm having a good time here. I've led so many people to the Lord." He says, so, the government, thought I was doing a bad thing, but it sent a newfound evangelist into the prison system, and I know the devil doesn't like that. All right, so yeah, they can watch your financials. They can shut your financials off. Remember, what was it, 2 years ago or maybe three? Truckers up in Canada, they rebelled and they drove to Ottawa because Ottawa was getting some really weird vibes and starting to talk against truckers and talk against fuel was a big thing, and new rules for truckers that were really unreasonable. And So all those truckers that went there, or a lot of them, and people that supported them, people that were supporting them financially, the Canadian government found out who they were and penalized them financially. Some of them were fined, some of them went to jail. Okay, um, so if you take away a person's money, you basically killed them. Okay, I mean they're still alive, but they're dead in the water. What can they do? You know, and we'll find that out someday. A lot of us will subsist miraculously, or with the help of others, through co-ops of different believers. I've often been happy that Yahweh has given me the ability to be a plumber, an electrician, uh, a nurse. I can help with the healing process of people, and the pharmacy tech. I know a lot about drugs, so um, I have a lot of different talents that I can barter with other people for either money or their talents. Okay, if I want to put it, let's say things are bad and I want to put an electrical panel outside, and I could say, hey, Joe Blow, you're an electrician, can you do that? And I noticed that some of the pipes in your house are leaking. Let me fix them for you. You help me, I'll help you, and we'll be good. You know, that's going to be a very crucial and integral part of our future, believe it or not. And we better get used to it because it's going to be a fact sooner than later. Okay, so service access. Oh man, if they think that you're against the government or against the New World Order, don't try going to a doctor. They ain't gonna work because they're gonna turn you away. Well, there are gonna be some nice souls that are gonna be working in the background or under the table, so to speak, helping people out. But for the most part, no, you got a problem. Get the mark, or you're gonna keep having problems. And I'm sorry, it's not worth it. A little comfort for 7 years is not worth an eternity in hell or in the lake of fire. So, all right, we got here. So let's look at some technical components, okay? We have a public key infrastructure, okay? Um, we have biometric authentication. We have cloud-based identity verification. Interoperable cross-border standards, okay? It used to be so nice back in the 70s and 80s. Oh, there's our other dog, our blind deaf dog, Zana. See? she can tell somebody's calling her, but not from where. Anyway, so well, let's start from the bottom, work up here. Interoperable cross-border standards. In the past, it's been nice because the Americans have had their own system, the Canadians their own, although theirs has been a lot like ours, so we were a lot closer than we were to other countries. Um, well, let's use some examples. Measurements. United States, we use SAE, Standard American Equivalents. Okay, rest of the world, most of the rest of the world, they use metric. Okay. Granted, metric's a lot easier to understand, but when you've been brought up under inches and fractions and everything else, it's not that bad doing SAE. Now, SAE, so we're talking about England a lot of times still uses miles and inches, feet. Maybe Australia a little bit, but a lot of that's waning away and going towards metric. Anyway, and that's been the whole thing about metric since the 1960s when everybody was arguing against it, which I still do. It's been meant to bring us together in that vein of life. Okay, what they're going to have to do is make one currency. Okay, so, sorry folks. With one currency, there's going to be trade will be a lot easier, but it'll just be this is distracting. It'll just be easier to shop and everything else. Plus, it'll all be digital, so a computer will figure out. Now, I don't think there's going to be like the Israelis have shekels, the British have pounds, we have dollars, Australian have their dollars, Canada has their dollars. If Canada still exists by then. Looks like a majority of Canada is going to become part of the United States pretty soon. But anyway, But if you have one currency, that's part of interoperable cross-border standards. Okay, measurements is another one. You name it. Hard part is going to be figuring out liters, though, when you pump your gas. I don't know. There's so many liters in a gallon, or vice versa, and I don't know. I'm set in my ways at 67 here, and I don't want to change. Okay. Now, cloud-based identity verification. Well, years ago in the 70s, there was a rumor running around that there was a computer out in the world. I think it was in Belgium, supposed to be. It was called the Beast, right? Well, quite applicable, right, to the New World Order. Um, and the Beast was supposed to have information about everybody in the world in it. Okay. Well, nowadays they have this cloud-based stuff, and the cloud is it's basically like the Beast, except that it's kind of anonymous, and really you don't know where the cloud information is stored and stuff like that. You can find it out pretty easy, I'm sure, but um, all they have to do is type in your name. Um, AI, just take her to AI. If I type into AI, tell me about, and I use my name, right? Well, it's not going to find out everything, but it's going to find out a lot. And that's going to progressively go worse and worse as time marches on. Biometric identification again, and we go into that. For the longest time, we used fingerprints. Okay. But when you get to be my age, you've used your fingers so long that the prints start going away. When I was working in a hospital here in Oregon, and we had a whole setup where if you wanted to pull a drug out of a cabinet, you just put your finger there. I was having a heck of a time. I used to use my thumb, and I'd press my thumb on there, and it would tell me it didn't recognize it. And sometimes I would wet my thumb and dry it and put it on there, and other times I would do other things and it would work. But man, it was a hassle. But there's other. They can read your retinas. They say that everybody's retinas are unique. Um, Ear shape is another thing they talk about. Everybody's ear shape is unique. Okay, there are many different ways, and of course there's DNA. Right. The thing is, as time goes on, DNA is going to get more and more popular, and it'll be more and more easy to read DNA. They'll just maybe take one of your hair follicles and put it under a scanner, some kind of scanner that'll read the DNA, and it'll almost be instantaneous. They'll be able to tell who you are. Okay, and public key infrastructure. Well, that has to do with kind of like the hive mentality, that everybody's the same, and that we're all grouped in to one deal. And the big thing about that is in the future, the near future, you have guys like Yuval Harari that talks about hacking a human body and putting the information into computers or machines, or melding humans with machines, kind of like a Borg thing from Star Trek. I don't know if it would be quite that drastic, but or transferring your consciousness when your body gets too old, you're not going to live anymore. Transfer your consciousness to a machine, you'll live forever until the power goes out. Um, sorry. I could just see a power outage on one of those machines, and all of a sudden, the 2 billion people are dead because all the information's lost. But I'm sure they'll have backups and everything. They're not stupid. They're going to figure out a way to keep everything going. Okay, so let's look at what are some examples of this. Well, the European Union and their digital identity wallet. Okay, a lot of it has to do. A lot of these places has to do with your not so much your credit score, but your social credit score. I think that's really big in China, actually. And so if you agree with the government, oh man, your credit is way up there. If you disagree, you're down low. If you have an easier life if they know that you're plugging along for the government and praising the government, stuff like that. If not, they can really just shut your credit off altogether. Just take all your money and send you out into the cold. India's got something called the Aadhaar system. I don't know about that. I wish I would have studied more about that. But like I said, I put this thing together pretty quick. And the UN has what it calls the ID 2020 initiatives. Being that it's 2026 right now, I'm sure that if it's still viable, it's probably pretty advanced by now. But they're going to have your information, all of our information, and they're going to be able to find us with a wink of an eye. Uh, so the key concept here is authentication equals permission. Okay. If they can authenticate you, you can get it. You can get your credit. You can get whatever, but it's going to come with a cost. Okay. It's going to authenticate, and later on, when the beast system is fully running, it's going to authenticate whether you're a beast believer or a beast denier. Okay. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay. Now, they have something out there called the CBDC. It's an acronym for Central Bank Digital Currency. There you go, digital currency. They're trying, like heck, to get rid of paper money and coin money, and even gold and silver will not fall under this. It'll be a means of bartering and trading outside of the CBDC. Biden was really into this. He really wanted to get this thing rock and rolling, but for some reason, it never went. Just like most of the things that Clinton did, never came into fruition. And if it did, it was probably bad. But so they talk about a one world government, a one world currency. That's what this is, a one world currency. And again, the authentication. When things are really moving along, is going to be on your right hand and your forehead. You walk into the market, you buy a bunch of food, you scan your hand, bam, you're out of there. Provided you have the money in the bank, of course, in the digital bank. So the definition of digitally issued sovereign currency controlled by a central bank. Ooh, central bank. I don't like that term. Do you? I hate it. I think of the Federal Reserve every time I hear central bank. And central banks are evil. Okay. The Central Bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve, is not part of the government. It's a private organization that makes billions and trillions of dollars off me and you because our government has aligned with them to print money whenever it's needed. And they're the cause of inflation. Because when the government needs more money, instead of saying, oh, we need to cut this and cut that, they just print more money. And every time they do that, your money becomes more worthless and worthless and worthless. But for some reason, though, the world and the government think this is a good thing. I don't know. Because it doesn't work for people like me. And if it worked for people like me and you, maybe we'd feel different about it, right? Let me get another sip here. Okay. So, features documented by the BIS is programmability. That makes it easier. Traceability. They'll be able to tell what you buy, where you bought it, and how many of it you bought, and nothing's going to be secret. Programmability, like I said, they'll be able to program in things that are allowed to buy, things that are not allowed to buy. Things that are government approved and unapproved. Things that, well, you pick your genre. Okay, direct issuance. How many of us have direct deposit? Right, that's direct issuance, but it's going to be even more streamlined when the time comes, because not only will they be able to give you your money, but they'll be able to take it back. You know, you broke some law. Well, we want your money back. You know, you're not a good citizen. You don't deserve to have this money, so we're taking it back. And rule-based controls. Well, there you go. I think I just talked about that just now. If you're a good boy or a good girl, and you follow their rules, you'll get to keep your money and spend it in almost any way you want to. If you're not, your money will be taken away. You might be fined. You know, it's an evil system, folks. It really is. Okay, programmable currency allows. Okay, let's make sure I'm recording here. That'd be a drag if I wasn't. Programmable currency allows spending restrictions. Okay, we've talked about that, right? You can buy this, but you can't buy that. Or, you know, you want to buy a car. Well, you know, the politician that's over here says he doesn't like you, so That Corvette that you wanted to buy? No, no. Go buy a smart car. That's what he wants you to buy. And that's what you'll be restricted to. Geographic limits. Okay. That's going to be difficult because the whole world's going to be under one standard. So that I'm sure that they'll be able to use that against us, the geographic limits. Maybe maybe if you were, say you were on the lam or something, and you live in the United States and you decided to go hide in Canada. Well, you wouldn't be able to do it anyway because they know where you are and they take your money before you got up there. But there's going to be places where you'll be able to use your money and places you won't be able to. Okay, simply put. Instant freezing. Well, there we talked about that. They don't like you, man. Your account's put on hold. I don't know. Our banks, two banks we've had in the last 5 years or so. What they do is they have a fraud department, okay? And if something smells a little fishy, they'll shut your card off. And a lot of times they won't tell you. Nowadays they're getting better at telling you, but with the first bank we had, they never told you. And so you'd be in line at or you'd be at a restaurant eating, or you'd be in line at a supermarket buying food, and you get to plunk your card down, and bam, no insufficient funds, or you can't, your card is shut off. And so you're all embarrassed, and there's like 20 people standing behind you, and you're delaying them, and I don't like doing that, and I don't like what it's done to me. But anyway, so then real quick, you got to call your bank, and it's never an instantaneous thing. You always got to answer all these questions to prove that you're you, and then you move on from there. But it ain't good. And expiration features, well, like I said, they can expire anything anytime they want to. So now transition to scripture. Okay. So let's look at Revelation 13, the mark and economic control. Okay. So Revelation 13, 16 through 17 says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark." And when it says he causeth all, it doesn't. It's not a request. It's a demand. Okay. That makes it almost sound like a request. You can do it, but if you. This is inevitable. I've got people walking in and out. When they do, the dog. Dog, no. Oh, sorry, folks. I'm really sorry. All right, let's move on. Word study. The word mark. Okay. In the Greek, it's charagma, spelled CHARAGMA. I mean, I transliterated that. And what's the meaning? It means engraving, stamp, official seal, or imprint of authority. I think the last one is probably more adept than anything else. It will be official, and it may be a stamp, it may be a tattoo, it may be some invisible mark they put on your head. I think it's going to be visible though, because that way other people are going to be able to tell if you're with them or not. But it's an imprint of authority. When you have that, you have got permission from the powers that be or the power that be's or is, and to shop or spend money or whatever. You're one of the club members, and you're okay. So the root word of that is carasso. Okay, CHARASSO. It means to inscribe officially. It's going to be a government thing. It's not going to be a tattoo that somebody can put on you at a tattoo shop. It's going to be official, and it's going to be recognizable as being official and real. So let's look at historic uses here. Okay, an imperial seal. Okay, an emperor's image on coins. There you go. Branding of ownership. Branding of ownership. Branding means actually putting a brand mark on you. So if you do have the mark and you have the branding of ownership, who owns you? The Antichrist owns you. The devil owns you. That's why Scripture says that when this happens, there's no there's no forgiving. Okay, you've got the mark, and you've sold yourself to the devil. You've decided to recognize his authority over Yahweh's, and you've given him allegiance, and basically you love him. It's what you're doing. Uh, Emperor's image on coins, an imperial seal. Yeah, it will be an imperial seal because he's going to be ruler of the world, right? So, I've got an insight here. Charagma implies authorized identification tied to allegiance. There you go. We were kids. We used to have to cite the Pledge of Allegiance. And what was that? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And so you were saying, I choose America, and I will fight for America because it's my country. Well, when you take the mark, you're choosing the devil. You might not know it at the time, but you are. Folks, if anything sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if they're going to promise that mark and offer you anything to do it, or anything to take it, or tell you that you can do anything after you do it, that's too good to be true. All right? So it's tied to allegiance, and it's not decorative so much as it's administrative. Okay? It's your seal. It's your identity. Now, when you take that mark, it's or if you take that mark. I hate to say when, because I think most of the people that are watching this, if not all of you, are steadily set against that. But it's administrative. It's going to allow the government to own you, to direct you to government. I mean the beast, to own you, to direct you, to be a slave to the devil. Okay, right hand or forehead, it says. Okay, so the Greek, dexios kier, and in two words, Texios, and second word, Cheir, means hand. And that word means action or labor. So, you work with your hands. You're Italian, you talk with your hands. Okay. And metaphon or metapon is the word for forehead, and that's identity or belief. So if you take it on your hand, you're working for the devil. Okay, you're laboring for him, for the one you love. If you take it on your forehead, it's your identity. It's like, regents, they wear crowns. Kings and queens and princes wear crowns that identifies them as rulers. That's I want to say deity. Some of them think they are. Royalty. That's what I was thinking of. So it's not going to matter, because if you take it on your hand or your forehead, it's going to be a death sentence for you. Not right away, but spiritually speaking, it's a death sentence, and you will experience a second death, which is a lake of fire. Okay, so let's compare it with Deuteronomy 6:8. In that verse, the hand means action, and the forehead means allegiance. Okay, so we have concord or concordance between Deuteronomy and the Greek meaning. So the mark involves both belief and behavior. So modern correlation, economic behavior, the hand. So again, that's what you work with. It's what you pass money with. It's what you accept money with. And cognitive alignment is for the forehead. So, like I said, I don't think there's going to be a difference. It's definitely going to be a sellout. But maybe those who want to be more visible and think it's more of a mind thing will take the forehead. The hardworking people will take the hand. So I don't know. So early church fathers, the historical interpretation. Okay. So how did the earliest Christians understand this? Okay, because they had to know about it, right? So there was a man named Irenaeus, and his work, what he centered on was he was against heresies. Okay. So he taught that the mark would be literal. It would identify allegiance to a future antichrist, and it would affect buying and selling. Well, that's what the scripture says. He warned against reckless speculation about 666, right? There's going to be a time when people are going to know what 666 stands for. Okay. Um, if it's not right now, it could be 10 minutes from now, but it's nobody really quite knows. It says the scripture is the number of a man, the number of his name. Well, when he's finally revealed, we'll know. Okay. All right. So what's the takeaway on this? Allegiance plus economic restrictions were central. Okay. Allegiance plus economic restrictions were central. Okay. That is going to be the whole crux of this mark. Okay, especially when you talk about what Irenaeus thought. Okay, so these things are funny. Hippolytus of Rome. He lived in the 3rd century. His work was on Christ and Antichrist. He studied all this stuff. Okay, and he connected the Antichrist with Daniel 7 and Revelation 13, and saw him as a future political leader. Okay, well, so do we, right? Okay, so he described, when he studied this, he described the global kingdom. He described compulsory visible loyalty, okay, and enforced economic submission. Okay, if you don't have the mark, you can't buy or sell or trade. So he saw for what it was. Oh boy, I need help with pronouncing this one. Victorinus of Patal, again the 3rd century. He interpreted the mark as being on the forehead, which meant confession, and on the hand, which meant action. Confession, that's interesting, because what you're saying with the mark on the forehead is you're saying, hey, I serve Satan. Okay, plain and simple. Now it could be that this is going to be like kind of like the Masonic Lodge, where the first 3 levels you're really ignorant, you don't know anything, and then as you progress, you learn more and more and more, and then when you get to the 32nd and 33rd degree, that's when they let you know you're serving Lucifer. Okay, so it'll be seen as the confession of anybody that has it, that they believe Satan and not Yahweh. Okay, so it exactly matches the Greek word study. All right, so Augustine of Hippo. Sorry, I keep thinking of a hippopotamus when I keep seeing this. Okay. So he worked on describing and studying the city of God, I guess the New Jerusalem, okay? And he saw the mark as belonging to the city of man versus the city of God. Ooh, that's pretty interesting. It's a worldly thing, and it's a worldly thing that only people that like living in this world and demand to live in this world and want the comforts of this world are going to accept. And all of us, the rest of us, are ambassadors, like I said. We belong to the kingdom of God, or the city of God, the New Jerusalem. Okay. That's interesting. So he emphasized the systemic allegiance over mechanism. Okay. The whole, not what makes it work, but the whole thing, with all the people that are marked, about their allegiance, instead of the mechanism of it, but the fact that they're all united by the mark. Okay. Sorry, folks. This finger, and this finger are basically dead, and I feel very little with it. Sometimes I click the button instead of moving the wheel. Okay, so let's see. Unified early church patterns. They agreed. Okay, on 3 things specifically. The mark represents allegiance. Number 2, it affects economic participation. Number 3, it's connected to political authority. They did not reduce it to a mere metaphor. If anybody does that, they're crazy. And they did not claim that it was already fulfilled in their day. Good, because we can barely understand it now, and that it could be fulfilled in our day. Okay. This is not a modern invention. It is ancient expectation. So let's look at Revelation 13:15, the image that speaks. All right. Power was given to power to give life unto the image. Okay. So the Greek word is icon. Isn't that interesting? Like an icon, an iconic thing, a picture of yourself, a picture of a saint or somebody that you revere. Okay. Um, Meaning a representation embodying authority. That's interesting because representation. Oh, you're representation. You're representing authority if you take the mark because you're embodying it. You're putting it on yourself. You become an icon for the devil. There we go. The image. So the image speaks and it causes compliance. It says that you don't comply, you're going to get killed. For most of history, it's a symbolic statue. Okay, not for long though. So now it's digital avatars, artificial intelligence, speak synthesis, and automated enforcement. Okay, so AI is going to take it over. Oh boy, and things will be represented by digital avatars, and enforcement will be automated. There won't be a person making the decision. If you don't worship the image of the beast, it's an automatic death sentence, and it's just a matter of time before somebody picks you up and you lose your head, literally. Okay, so first time in history, an image can speak globally and trigger economic exclusion. First time in history is right now. That's what we're talking about. It's going to be able to speak globally, which is going to be really interesting because it's going to be able to project its thoughts not just to not just the United States, but all the Western Hemisphere, all the Eastern Hemisphere at the same time. Okay. Now, yes, this can be done on television, but I think it's going to go a little deeper than that because if you have the mark, there's going to be some special things about it. The New Age says it wants you to advance. What I'm thinking of evolutionary. It wants your vibrations to increase, and with that, I think is going to come some really weird stuff. And one of this, I think, is going to be telepathy. So I think when this thing speaks, everybody that's got that mark is going to be able to hear it. Okay. So if you're hiding out, you think you're safe, it's going to speak to all the neighbors and everything and say, hey, he's home, go get him. Okay. So let's look at Daniel 7, the systemic absorption. Okay. So it's just found in Daniel 7:23. Okay. Now the word in Aramaic, akal, A-K-A-L, it means to consume or absorb. So modern devouring, data immigration, financial harmonization, regulatory convergence. So everything's going to be absorbed and put into one thing, and it's going to be a multitasking device or whatever. I guess device is a good word. It's all going to be it's all going to be melded together. So, in the modern sense, it's going to be data integration. Okay, all your information is going to be there. Your financials, all your financial stuff is going to be there. Whether you're a good boy or a bad boy, or a good girl or a bad girl, as the case may be, and there's only two sexes. Or regulatory convergence. Okay, the rules are going to be the same for everybody. Okay, it's going to be a hard thing, man, for people to get around. That's why it says in the scriptures that the beast is going to go to war with the saints, and he's going to prevail over them. And it's things like this that are going to let that happen. But I think he's going to be in for a fight, though. Really do. So not a conquest by the sword, but a conquest by the system. You kind of saw that. I think Nazi Germany would have been a good illustration, or is a good illustration, because yes, eventually people were conquested or conquered um, by death, by genocide. But at first, it was people were rounded up, okay, and the bad thing is that our people complied. I don't know. I think to save my family, I'd get a gun and start shooting as many people that were trying to take me down as I could. But for some reason, the Jewish people, our people, they complied. They gave in and said, okay, well, if you're going to arrest me. A lot of them thought they were going to be deported to other countries, and that was a big lie, wasn't it? Okay, so let's look at 2 Thessalonians 2, operational delusion. So the Greek here is, come on, figures work. The word is Anagerian planis, okay? Energean, let me spell it. Energeian, Energean planis, okay? Plan, capital or long E and an S. Okay. Energeria means active operational power. Makes sense. Energy is active. Okay. Plana means deceptive wandering. So it's going to be an operational power that has deceptive wandering. Okay, I get it. It's going to be able to figure out how to fool you with deceptions and lies and everything else. It's going to be an active. This is what makes me think that this AI that's going to be around at this time is going to be sentient, because it's going to be able to think, to understand, to not only understand, but to look at a problem and figure out how to fix it, and not be bound by rules and regulations, so to speak. Deceptive wandering, that's an interesting phrase. So the modern reflection, or the reflection of it today, is an algorithmic shaping of perception. Oh man, how many of you, and I know you've seen this, you get on TV or you get on, well, YouTube is loaded with this stuff, but you start reading a story and it looks so real. All the characters look real. The storyline sounds real and everything else. And then you get to the end, and if you're blessed enough, you realize it was an animation, an AI animation. Okay? And if they can do that now, imagine what they'll be able to do in 5, 10, or 20 years. It's scary, it really is. It's algorithmic reshaping of, or shaping of, reshaping, you could say, of perception. What you see is necessarily what's there, okay? So the matrix is cognitive before it is economic, okay? It understands before anything else, okay? Before money or anything else. It's understanding, it's all knowing, it's all, not all knowing, it's God. Mostly knowing. It's cognitive, it's able to figure things out, it's able to determine things, it's able to act just like a human being's mind would. Okay? That's weird. Then we get into the whole Yuval Harari stuff. Man, you gotta watch some of his videos. Man, if the Antichrist has a partner, this guy would be it, and he's not the Antichrist himself. So let's see. Sefer there. Okay. I have a scripture Bible that it's called the Sefer, and Sefer, it means in Hebrew, means book, just like Bible means book. Okay, but it has a lot of extra things in it. It has all the apocrypha in it. It has the pseudepigrapha stuff in it. And it's arranged like the Hebrew Bible is. In other words, in the New Testament or the Shah, you have the 4 Gospels. Okay, those are all. That's the Gospel section. And then you have anything that Paul wrote, and you had anything that Timothy wrote. So it's all. You don't skip around. You go by author basically. In the old or the Tanakh, the Old Testament, it goes like our Tanakh, or our Bible does, or not ours. They like to say the King James. Matter of fact, it's like the King James, but it has Hebrew names and stuff in it. But um, so you got you got your King's books, and you have your I can't remember Samuel books, and but it's divided in like the Hebrew Bible is divided into three sections: Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. The Torah is the law, okay. The Nevi'im is the prophets, and the Ketuvim is the writings. Okay, so the writings here, you're talking about Psalms, Proverbs. Unfortunately, they have Daniel in there because they can't admit that Daniel is a. Uh, Jews can't admit that, or rabbis should say, can't admit that Daniel's a prophet, because if Daniel's a prophet, then it's real, and they'd have to recognize Yeshua. But so many of this Bible's laid out like that. It's kind of confusing when you're at a Bible study or a church, and they're hopping around in different. You really got to be on your toes to know what's where. Anyway, so this is the Sefer layer, watchers and corrupted knowledge. Okay, so we're jumping into to an area where it's going to kind of describe how things are going to happen, or why they're going to happen during the reign of the beast. So you had your watchers. They were the fallen angels. There was 200 of them. They came down on Mount Hermon, and they swore an oath to one another that they wanted to pick up or marry or abduct, whatever way you want to look at it, human females to have coitus and to have children with them. This they lusted after human women for I don't know how long, but they decided to do something about it. That thing that they did was Peter says that they left their first estate, and because of that, they're bound right now and awaiting judgment. But they're the reason why the Nephilim existed, because when you have a spiritual being like that, or with a spiritual body, and they do have bodies, angels do, okay, real bodies, like we're going to have when we get to heaven. But anyway, whatever way they were able to do it, they were able to mix their DNA with the DNA of a woman and create the Nephilim. And Nephilim, were naturally born beings. I'm not going to say children. And they were a corruption. And they were just a bunch of bad dudes, man. I'm telling you, they consumed all the things that of mankind. And I'm thinking you're talking about food and stuff. And it said when they ran out of that stuff, they started eating people. So, but anyway, the Watchers taught how to make weapons, metallurgy, which would have been how to make weapons, but how to use metals in other ways too, I'm sure. Secret arts, astrology, incantations, and stuff like that. The worthless crap. And knowledge beyond moral restraint. Okay. So that's what they were basically involved in, or what they taught. Okay. So the theme is advanced knowledge plus moral corruption equals societal collapse, and that's what happened. Yahweh had to flood the earth to get rid of all traces of men. Now, the angels were rounded up and locked up. Okay, so you got the angels gone, and the flood took care of men, but the Nephilim, and it's quite clear. I get so tired of listening to some of the smartest people when it comes to scripture saying that the Nephilim were killed in the flood. No. First Enoch says that as a judgment to the fallen angels, they had to watch their children kill each other. So they took a sword, each one of them, and the Nephilim took a sword and killed another one until they were all gone. Okay? Very simple, very plain, but for some reason, these Meshuggahs that they don't want to recognize that or realize that, or I don't know. So Genesis 6, well, the earth was filled with violence, right? So the pattern is knowledge, centralization, corruption, and judgment. That's the progression, or the regression, if you want to look at it that way. So the knowledge was taught, centralization was founded, and then corruption occurred, and then judgment. Okay? All right, so if we want to look at it another way, Eden, Harold, Watchers, arrow, Babel, arrow, beast system. The beast system is going to be basically just another, use the word reincarnation of what happened, the corruption in Eden, and when the Watchers came down, and all that stuff is going to be again. And if we look at Ecclesiastes, the first chapter, we're told that there's nothing new under the sun. The things that happened in the past are going to happen again. Going to happen again, and that it suggests that mankind cannot learn. That mankind's going to keep making the same mistakes over and over. That's probably a result of the fall. Okay, so let's see. Babel, prototype of global unity. So we're talking about Babel, like the Tower of Babel here. Genesis 1:11:6. Excuse me. Let me get another swig here. What's the whistle? So what was happening during the time of the Tower of Babel? Well, there was a unified language. Everybody spoke the same, and a unified ambition. What was that unified ambition? They wanted to build a tower to reach to heaven. What they wanted to do is, that makes it sound like they were going to climb the tower to try to get into heaven. The whole thing was a spiritual thing that they built. It could have been something like a portal or gateway or something, or in an ancient sort of fashion. But they actually wanted to be able to enter into heaven and do battle with God and take him off his seat, and Satan would take over. But I know it's crazy, but that's what they were trying to do. So that was back then. Okay, so what do we have now? A unified digital language. Okay, you and I can speak different languages just by using a translation program. We can speak it, we can write it, we can understand it, we can read it, and then translate it using those systems. Okay, unified economic rails. Okay, trying to meld all the currencies in the world into one monetary system. Okay. And then unified ID systems. Okay, everybody's going to have an ID. Well, the people that take the mark, that's going to be their ID, and our ID is going to be that we're disobedient and we need to die. Okay, so Babel was with bricks. Modern Babel is with bandwidth. That's very interesting. It really is. It's the thing that it's made out of. Okay, it's and the more bandwidth that you have, the more information you can disseminate and absorb. Okay, and there are some computers, I'm sure, that are out there that are just incredibly fast and operate on different mechanisms than ours do. We have these computer chips in ours that processors that figure things out, and I think that they have stuff that might even be more biologic that works. And we'll probably find out someday soon. Okay, so let's look at Romans 12:2. Resisting systemic conformity. Okay, so Greek, the word is, all right, I'm going to spell it first. S-U-S-C-H long E, M-A-T-I-Z long O. Seskimatio. Okay. It means to be molded into a pattern. Kind of like when you're making a loaf of bread. You get all together, put it together, and compress it, make it into a shape, and then you got to wait for it to rise. So anyway, digital culture molds thought. Okay, and it does. My goodness, it molds thought. They are trying so hard to get us to think like the world. They've got people convinced that Christians especially, that you can do anything you want to, and don't worry about it. It's okay. God forgives you. God is gracious. Sorry. You get yourself into a mess. You got to get out of it. But you watch these commercials. We look at YouTube all the time. We don't watch regular TV. We gave up on that a long time ago because the commercials were just ridiculous, and every year they get worse and worse and worse. whether it be men's products, women's products, or trying to inculcate us into the idea that homosexuality is okay. But so by using that, they try to change our ways to make us think differently. And that's why Scripture is so implicit that we're supposed to keep our eyes, our thoughts in the Bible, our thoughts on Yeshua, on Yahweh, on the Father. We used to sing a song in church, a hymn, real quick. It was, turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. In other words, keep your eyes on God, keep them on Yeshua, and try to emulate him. Don't emulate the commercials. Don't even watch the stinking commercials. But he wants us to be more like Yeshua. He wants us to be carbon copies of Yeshua, to show this world what righteousness can be, to show this world what's wrong with it. And we can do that just by acting like believers in Yeshua. We don't need to get out and preach, although that's another way to do it, and a good way. But a lot of, because I remember when I was younger, a younger believer, I'd walk up, oh yeah, so you need the Lord, and they'd say, well, you know what? Prove it to me. Let me look at your life and let me see if what you're living is indicative or representative of what you're telling me you want me to do. And boy, that hit hard. It really does. If you're going to go preach to people, you better make sure that you have all your ducks in a row and that you're walking the walk instead of just talking the talk. This world will spit you up and chew you up and spit you out. Okay, so then we got to learn that the battle's spiritual before it's technological. Okay. I've had the weirdest things happen. For instance, one time, I believe that prayer is incredibly powerful. Incredibly. And for some reason, my prayers and my automobiles are in sync. Because I remember one time I was driving with a friend of mine, and this guy is the guy that he discipled me. His name was Ed Farmer, wonderful man. He's with the Lord now. But we were driving one day, and all of a sudden, the engine of my Chevy pickup truck started making a knocking noise and kind of vibrating a little bit. And I started praying, and Ed says, "Oh, it sounds like you threw a rod," And I said, "Man, stop that. Pray." And we prayed, and all of a sudden, the sound went away and never came back again. I've touched batteries and had them, be dead one minute, start up the next. Yeah, when it comes to cars, I'm like the Lord's mechanic. It's too bad I can't practice that much anymore. But anyway, I mean, I can still pray, but I just can't do the dirty work. So yeah, everything is spiritual before it's technological. Okay, and if there's something technological coming against you, prayer. Okay, here's another reason. For the longest time, I used to be very into the UFO stuff, deeply into it before I got saved. And it's what happened was I got saved and started realizing that these entities that were abducting people were really fallen angels. And so I experienced that stuff a lot, not so much the abduction, but the sense of something being in the room and everything. And I'd always pray and make it go away in the name of Yeshua. So, and those, when you think about it, that's more technological stuff like that. So anyway, folks, I'm going to, real quick, I'm going to run a video, okay, because I got to run and do something real quick. And this is basically Trump destroying the new world order, okay, and the different orders that are coming to replace it, okay? Here we go.
The US has shaped the world around you. It has likely either protected you
Light them all up.
or bombed you, and influenced the rules of the global order we all live by. Now, Donald Trump is ripping up the playbook. In places like Venezuela, Greenland, Ukraine, and beyond. So, is this just chaos? Or is there a strategy behind it all?
We are going to run the country. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not.
The world is grappling to make sense of it all.
A world without rules.
当前国际形势变乱交织。
The New World Order.
New world orders don't just appear out of nowhere. They emerge after major ruptures, like World War II, when the United States rose as a superpower. It shaped a system of new rules to prevent another global conflict. Borders were meant to be respected, free trade encouraged, international institutions were set up to oversee it all. People later started calling it the rules-based order. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union challenged US power, militarily and ideologically. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the US went from superpower to hegemon, the most powerful player that called the shots in a brave new world.
A world where the rule of law supplants the rule of the jungle, a world in which nations recognize the shared responsibility for freedom and justice, a world where the strong respect the rights of the weak.
Of course, the US were the good guys.
And the world's greatest democracy will lead a whole world of democracies.
Shaping a balance of power that favors freedom.
To assure the rule of law and the rights of man.
Sure, this was often just lip service. The US ignored international law when it found it convenient, like when it invaded Iraq. Held suspects without charge or trial, and in other cases. Was the rules-based order ever a real thing?
Most of what people mean when they say rules-based international order is actually just this period of US sort of dominance since the end of the Cold War.
Emma Ashford is an analyst on US grand strategy.
American hegemony was in many ways much more liberal than what came before it, right? Open free trade, some norms around things like protection of civilians and human rights and democracy. The fundamental point to make here is that it was US power that enabled this period.
Enter Donald Trump, demanding others' territory, slapping on tariffs, and pulling the US out of international organizations.
Yes.
What is this one?
Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, sir.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Is there anything that could stop you if you wanted to?
Yeah, there's one thing. My own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop. And,
Not international
and that's
law.
very good. I don't need international law.
I think President Trump is destroying the order that made the United States and its allies safe and prosperous.
This is Kori Schake. She worked at the National Security Council under former Republican President George W. Bush.
No dominant power in history has had as much voluntary cooperation as the United States has gotten since 1945. And we get that voluntary cooperation because we don't behave in the way Donald Trump is behaving.
And many in his administration.
Let me clarify that, because she's a liberal, obviously. But we were getting cooperation from people around the world in the past because we were funding everything. We were paying for NATO, almost totally supporting it. We were paying for the World Health Organization and supporting it. But Donald Trump, when he cuts off the support, all of a sudden he's bad man. Well, that's baloney. And that needed to be addressed. So anyway, let me go on here.
And share the hostility to the international system.
The post-war global order is not just obsolete. It is now a weapon being used against us.
We live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power.
America First, Peace Through Strength, brought to you by the War Department.
So, what's shaping such perceptions?
I think that the rules-based order, such as it was destroyed over the last 15 years by Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin.
Alexander Gray worked at the National Security Council in Donald Trump's first term.
It's become counterproductive to us to still operate as if the world is in the 1990s when it's not. And candidly, we're now reverting back to something that looks much more like earlier periods in world history. And I think the Trump administration is just trying to adapt to that.
And the US is flexing its muscles in the Western Hemisphere, as we saw in Venezuela. When US forces snatched Nicolas Maduro after months of military buildup in the Caribbean. Trump wants to dominate this part of the world. He spells it out in the National Security Strategy. That's a document every US president makes about their strategic objectives. Trump's is all about America first. Trump refers to the Monroe Doctrine, formulated 200 years ago by US President James Monroe. It was a message to European powers. We're in charge here, don't bother us. The US now says it sees similar threats today from China and Russia.
We have spent 25 years ignoring the hemisphere largely, and China and Russia have gained significant strategic, economic, and I would even argue dual use or military leverage in the hemisphere. That is an area of special concern for us. And so we have to have a more proactive, I would argue, approach to addressing those threats.
I genuinely don't understand the Trump administration's obsession with bullying our neighbors in the Western Hemisphere. It seems to me incredibly self-defeating. We don't have major security challenges in the Western Hemisphere. The US won the geopolitical lottery.
And now Trump wants to cash in, from Venezuelan oil to Greenland's rare earth minerals. A grab for valuable resources. So Trump has got everyone talking about the Western Hemisphere. But look at this. This is where US airstrikes struck in Trump's first year back in office.
He's perfectly happy to use military force to achieve his goals. There's been this debate, I think common misconception in Washington and elsewhere, that Donald Trump is an isolationist, that he is wanting to pull the US back from the world. And that is just not accurate.
So it's about how Trump engages with the world.
You don't have the cards right now.
First off, with the US's friends.
You're gambling with World War III.
Or this about NATO allies.
We've never needed them. They'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
And the US's friends are taking it badly.
I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling.
And Canada never, ever will be part of America.
Les États-Unis se détournent progressivement de certains de ses alliés.
So what does all this have to do with US strategy?
I think the big shift that we're seeing in US foreign policy is the result of this realization that the world is changing.
No, we haven't left our allies. Our allies left us a long time ago. They have, especially in Europe, they've dictated to us what they want us to do. And a lot of times we had presidents that did those things. And but I'll tell you, and I know that some people think this is old-fashioned, but if we hadn't gone into Europe to save Europe in World War II, that I might be a lampshade on somebody's table. And if we didn't go into the Pacific like we did, I would have, I don't know, if I'm living on the West Coast, I might be speaking Japanese right now. So, you know, it's we're always there to help the world when the world needs help, but when we want to assert our authority, all of us says, "Oh, we're being a bully." That woman that's wearing the, not this one here on here, but the other woman that's wearing her glasses and looking up down her nose at us. She obviously doesn't study history. She doesn't study current events. And if she does, she is a very shallow study, and she's arrogant, an arrogant liberal. So anyway, I just wanted to put my feelings in there. Okay, here we go. Back with the video.
That the US is no longer, so far out ahead of every other country in the world that we can't necessarily do everything anymore, and so we need to focus.
This focus concerns the US global military footprint. You see, these are the countries the US officially designates as major allies. And many of them host US military bases and facilities. US Congress says there are around 120 of them in the world. Independent experts count 750. Here are some of them. There is no complete public list. No other country has anything close. There are bases in some of the most remote and diverse locations you can imagine. This vast and controversial network allows the US to deploy forces rapidly almost anywhere. Plus, there are its aircraft carriers, kind of like floating bases. Strategically, this footprint is supposed to serve three main purposes. In Europe, deterring Russia. In East Asia, keeping China in check. And in the Middle East, staving off Iran. So, three potential flashpoints. But being ready for war in all three regions at the same time is extremely difficult, even for the United States. For example, just in January, when Iran cracked down on protests, Donald Trump threatened the country's leaders with strikes. But at the time, major vessels needed for the job were elsewhere. It took 10 days for this aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, to go from the South China Sea to the Persian Gulf.
So that's strategic overextension in practice. It's the notion that we try to do so much around the world that we don't actually have the military assets we need to do it. And unless we want to spend a lot more, build up a much larger military, we need to find a way to dial down what we're trying to do.
This brings us back to US allies. The US wants Europe to handle Russia and Gulf allies to deal with Iran so that the US can back away and focus on China instead.
Russia is not a medium-term threat, and it's not a long-term threat to the United States. To me, that is a local European problem that can be provided for with some US support.
From NATO's early years onwards, many US presidents have wanted European allies to spend more on defense. Now, Trump is one reason why they are paying up. But because he's putting the alliance itself in question.
If they don't pay, I'm not going to defend them.
For the first time in decades, Europeans are openly discussing whether the US would come to help in a crisis.
I think our NATO allies are completely justified in their worry, and it grieves me so much that my government is doing so much damage to that transatlantic link.
I think his determination is that Europe needs the United States more than the United States needs Europe.
Over in the Middle East, the US wants scenes like these to remain a thing of the past. The failures of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars made many Americans skeptical of foreign interventions.
Every president since Obama has tried to pull back from the Middle East and then sort of got pulled back in by some crisis.
Trump's latest standoff with Iran shows that leaving the region altogether is not that simple. So Trump is buying into some long-standing US strategy aims. What's different with Trump is that he doesn't necessarily support allies when he doesn't think there's anything in it for the US.
Alliances are America's superpower. They magnify our own strength, and they are the basis of our security and our prosperity. The Trump administration doesn't understand that. They're doing material damage to it.
I think alliances are not, they're not human beings. They're neither good nor bad. Alliances serve a purpose or they don't. So I think the president's simply changing the expectations about what does a good ally mean.
And he is changing other expectations too.
You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way.
Donald Trump is engaging with America's foes.
One of the bigger shifts this administration has made, and the one that I think is actually very, very good for US statecraft, is their willingness to talk to anybody. We've got in this habit of refusing to talk to bad actors around the world, because that would be seen as something bad, right? If we actually talk to Russia about what's happening in Ukraine, that's seen as giving something to the Russians. But that's not how great powers actually achieve their interests.
So that's great power diplomacy. But what about the interests of smaller countries, the ones that are actually on the sharp end of these deals?
I certainly think Russia has been emboldened by the radical shift in Trump's attitudes about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I mean, he's basically taking the Russian position against a free and democratic society fighting desperately for its sovereignty and its survival.
It's China that is now the priority for the US, the only country growing so fast that the US sees it as a threat to its own global dominance. Trump was the first president to call China a strategic competitor back in his first term. The US has been expanding its military footprint in the Indo-Pacific to deter China, for example, in the so-called First Island chain of US bases around Taiwan and the South China Sea. Trump has since dropped the tough talk and is mostly talking economics with Beijing.
But he's a very tough negotiator.
There are two ways to look at this approach to dealing with US foes. The first argues that Trump could be prepared to accept China's and Russia's neighborhoods as being their spheres of influence, where they can do as they wish, much like the one he wants for himself in the Western Hemisphere. The second view argues that Trump still wants to keep Beijing in check, and you need to read between the lines of his national security strategy.
It is the policy of the United States to prevent any one power from gaining hegemony in regional hegemony. Clearly, that is aimed at China, and the desire to keep a free and open Indo-Pacific obviously directed at China. So if you take the document in its totality, it is very much a document about U.S. priorities for dealing with a world in which China remains our paramount security threat.
In fact, the US is quietly continuing to expand its military footprint in the Indo-Pacific. Plans are underway to station US submarines in this naval base on Australia's west coast. So Trump says he will continue deterring China in the Indo-Pacific, even though he is pursuing his own sphere of influence closer to home.
The US feels that it has primacy in Latin America, and has done since the Monroe Doctrine. That's not the same thing as giving other states a sphere of influence. They're not, giving away the world, but they are focusing much more on what they see as our own sphere of influence. It's hypocritical, but that's great power politics.
So underneath all the chaos, there is a strategy. Donald Trump wants to control the Western Hemisphere, pull back from Europe and the Middle East, and contain China in the Indo-Pacific. And to achieve this, he's prepared to shake up the old world order, ditch alliances, and flout international law.
I don't need international law.
We could end here, but the story goes on. Some US allies are licking their wounds, trying to find a new direction by confronting their own hypocrisy.
We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works.
Middle powers are now hedging their bets and reaching out to other players.
Everybody agrees unipolarity is ending, but they don't necessarily agree on what's coming next. I tend to think that we're looking at some kind of multipolar system, which is to say the US and China as very powerful states, but others as important.
So the global order is fragmenting. The US no longer calls the shots alone. It's drifting away from rules and values it once claimed to defend, and doubling down on military power. And the world we live in is about to get a lot more unpredictable.
That was interesting, huh? Very interesting. Shows up. The main theme there is how Donald Trump is pulling out of the world system, basically, and wanting to focus on the Western Hemisphere and just the United States and north and south of here. So I don't see anything wrong with that. There's that woman with the black hair and the glasses. She just every time she came on, I was so glad that the guy that came on after her kind of like rebuked what she said. But this is the kind of thinking that from that like she has that I don't know, it makes you wonder if Michael Savage was right when he said liberalism is a mental disorder. You know? But anyway, yeah, it's one thing I find pretty interesting before we get back to our list here is that in Daniel, there's a description of a 10-nation confederacy, or with 10 kings, I should say. And it says that 3 of the kings had to be subdued, I guess because they didn't cater to the wishes of the, how do I put this, the New World Order or whatever, or the beast system or whatever. And I find it interesting that China, Russia, and the United States are the 3 big, players here. But there's a lot more that's going on behind the scenes. Vladimir Putin just didn't invade Ukraine to invade Ukraine and gain more land. Ukraine for a long time has been, the Ukraine had over 30 biological labs in American biological labs in Ukraine. And the reason that they were there is because it was illegal to build anymore here in the United States. So it's just build them somewhere else. But you don't build them on the doorstep of a country that's xenophobic and kind of afraid of a lot of stuff, So you're in there for that, and they were a hub for child trafficking and for drug trafficking too. So Putin has been himself has been a victim of some of that stuff, and just wanted to kind of clean that up. But it was always been the mainstream media and the mainstream press and everything have always made it sound like it was an invasion to get land and stuff. No, it hasn't been. Now, unfortunately, because of the things that the mainstream media said and some of the liberals and stuff that have been against what Putin's doing, is that it's weakened Russia. It really has. And I've never been a fan of Russia. I never was a fan of the Soviet Union. But if Yahweh's using Russia for a reason, and I just cited 3 of them. Then maybe that's a good thing. And China, well, China's itself, I don't know, but I just wonder if those 3 nations, those 3 kings that were subdued are United States, Russia, and China. Because China, I don't think China has a central bank. They don't believe in that. And the world doesn't like that. The world wants a central bank in every country. And I think that Putin has basically gotten rid of the leftist, or I should say leftist, the New World Order central bank, and he might have established his own central bank for Russia. And Trump is doing everything he can to get rid of the Federal Reserve. So, yeah, I think there's more afoot than we really know, and I think that these 3 are working together somehow. In a strange sort of way, but it's happening. Hold on, folks. Yeah, I can't stand it when people call during my show. Okay, that won't happen again. All right. Anyway, let's continue because we're going on an hour and 44 minutes here, and I really get this done. So the final balance. Okay. So, 3 things. Technology is not the beast. Okay? Technology is something that the beast will use. Okay? It's, oh man, he's going to use it. It's incredible. Just reading the script about the time during the tribulation and stuff like that. It's going to be a time unparalleled in all the history of mankind. Where technology is concerned. whether it's holograms or whether it's lasers or portals or even time travel. I don't know. So a second thing, infrastructure is not automatically the mark. Okay? It's the mark will be a byproduct of the infrastructure. It'll be a something to shore up the infrastructure, and likewise they'll work together. Okay? But one is one and the other is another. Okay? It can't be the same, and they're not. The mark involves allegiance and worship. Yes, it does. The fact that the one on the forehead, the mark on the forehead stands for cognitive, and what am I trying to say? The fact that a person consciously makes the choice to receive that shows me that it's not inculcation; it's something that they've thought about, and the fact that it could be on the right hand too is important, because the right hand is the tool of work. It's the tool of purpose and stuff like that. So you could have picked two better parts of the body actually to put these things on. Let's see. Prophecy describes structural compatibility. For the first time in history, that compatibility exists globally. Okay. They have the same technology in some of the most poorest places on Earth that we have here. I remember years ago, Jim Wilhelmsen and I think Eric Smith, we had a ministry online where we would all talk to one another. And when we did that, we made it public. We'd always have these guys come in from Africa and say, oh, how poor they are and how they wish that, can we donate to them and stuff like that. I remember Jim saying, you're poor, but you have high-speed internet. How's that work? And they couldn't answer it. And so, we kind of got rid of them that way. But so they had the same infrastructure. They had the same technology that we had, and they were using it for their betterment as we were using it for Yahweh's benefit. But anyway, it just shows to show you that things around the world are becoming more fluid, they say, or more structured, to where we're not the only country that has all the blessings anymore. Other countries do too. And anyway, that's that. But so this that in fact should make all believers more discerning. Okay, and show us that the end is here. It's close. And but the important thing is that we keep serving Yahweh, that we keep our focus on Him, because there are times coming that are going to be very deceptive, very they're already here, but it's going to get worse. Things are going to get very deceptive. Things are going to get to the point where, well, even Yeshua said in his discourse, he said that the delusion is going to be, that might have been Paul that said that, I can't remember. The delusion is going to be so strong that even the elect could be fooled. Could be, not necessarily will be, but could be fooled. Okay, that's why we have to keep in Him. We have to keep in His Word. We have to keep in prayer. We have to keep in worship. We have to keep our eyes up and on Him rather than on this thing. Don't leave post the matrix by any means, because we talk about stuff like this, but use the internet for good purposes. Use it to bless people or to learn. Okay, I know you do that. If you're watching this show, that's one of your criteria. But anyway, I'm going on, and I need to get off of here. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I hope that you learned and that you got something from it. If you need, watch it again. I had to read over this material 3 times in a very short period in order to see what I had put together and coalesced. It was fragmented, and I had to make it look pretty, and I hope I did. But anyway, that having been said, I'm going to get out of here. Our next show will probably be next Tuesday. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, and the missile doesn't hit our house, or a laser. And think about one thing, folks. I just heard today that there's a gigantic fire going on in Oklahoma, and it's destroyed cities and counties. And makes me wonder. I'm going to get right online in a little while and see if there's a large deposit of different minerals that are lithium that's used for making batteries and stuff like that. There's a reason why that fire started. And by golly, if it's innocuous, then I'll find it out. If not, I will find out other things and let you know. Okay, anyway, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May he make his face to rise upon you, be gracious unto you. May he watch your going out and your coming in. You're rising up and you're lying down. May he give you the peace that passes all understanding. And I pray in Yeshua's name that you will be victorious, that you will not be fearful of anything, and that you will look at everything that comes against you as either a test from Yahweh or something to make you learn. All this bad stuff that happens to us helps us to learn, helps us to understand why things happen and why he allows things to happen. Okay? But I know if you trust in him with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul, and all your strength, that you're going to be right on. So, all right, folks. Yahweh be with you, and have a great weekend. Okay? I know I will. Okay. Bye now.